Welcome to Heat and Hydration, brought to you by Southern California University's Tactical Sports Medicine, located in Whittier, California. I'm your host, Coach John Hoffman, Director of Tactical Strength and Conditioning for SCU. Let's take a look at why you need to hydrate. Hydration is needed for a few reasons. Water maintains blood volume, regulates body temperature, and is involved in muscle contractions. We need to replenish what we lost during exercise so we can maintain optimal performance. So it's very important for all athletes, and more importantly those running in high heat, to consume liquids to replenish those fluids lost during those exercise moments. Unfortunately, many athletes do not seriously consider the effects of hydration on athletic performance. Let's take a look at some of the physiological effects that occur when we are actually dehydrated. When the body's not properly hydrated, or rather dehydrated, we're going to see a number of side effects. In terms of reduction in blood volume, which we're going to hinder your cardiovascular performance, or rather your running. Decreased skin blood flow, meaning you won't be able to cool down as much. Decreased sweat rate. Decreased HIIT dissipation. Increased core temperature. Increased rate of glycogen use. Athletes in dehydrated state had an increased level of cortisol, reducing the level of testosterone and therefore the performance measures. Your performance will diminish at around 2% of your body weight loss. But let's look at what occurs when dehydration is actually higher than 2%. At 0%, you will be working optimally. 1%, thirst is stimulated, heat regulation during exercise is altered, and performance takes a decline. 2%, further decrease in heat regulation, and your performance will decrease even more, and your thirst will go up. 4%, exercise performance is cut by 20 to 30%, so you see a dramatic drop in athletic performance. 5% is where you will see headaches, irritability, that spaced out feeling, or fatigue. 6% dehydrated, you're going to start to feel weakness and severe loss of thermoregulation. 7%, you're going to likely collapse or you have to stop exercising. This is very important. And 10% is where you start to see comatose, and 11% is death likely. So it's very important to understand that you have to hydrate during your competition. Now, hydration and performance. Restoring fluids maintains normal muscle function, helps prevent a decrease in physical performance, and reduces the risk of heat stress. Loss of sweat, again, to about 2% of body weight causes a noticeably decrease in physical and mental performance. If you have a 5% loss of body weight during physical activities, you're going to see a decline of 30% in athletic performance. And loss of perspiration greater than 2% of body weight increases the risk of nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, and GI problems. As we stated earlier, another function of water is hydration, is temperature regulation. We must maintain core temperature in a range of 35 to 42 degrees Celsius during exercise, or our bodies are going to shut down. If our core temperature goes above 104 degrees, the body begins to overheat to the point where the proteins start to break down. And this is where you're going to see a lot of GI issues during your run. Other things, such as eating spicy foods and drinking caffeinated beverages, can also increase your body temperature, causing you to sweat out the excess. So we do not recommend drinking caffeinated beverages before your run or even during your run, as it's going to only increase dehydration as well as increase your body core temperature. Another important function of water and hydration is electrolyte balance. Sweat is comprised mostly of water, but it also contains sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. There are about 3 million sweat glands in the human body, with the highest concentration in our palms. What determines how much we sweat could be based on how big we are, your physical fitness level, and your hydration levels. For example, smaller athletes have a distinct advantage and may be able to maintain rates of adequate heat loss as larger athletes shut down due to the body size. Bigger people generate more heat because they have more body mass. The greater surface area that comes with a larger body also requires more perspiration to cool it down. The average person aggressively working out perspires to about 1.7 to 1.5 liters per hour. Therefore, men sweat more than women and require more water. Training and heat acclimatization can increase sweat rate by 10 to 20% or 200 to 300 milliliters per hour. Losing 3 to 5% of your body weight, the sweating process begins to slow down. People who are very fit sweat more than their less fit counterparts. But if fit people and less fit people are performing the same task, the less fit person will sweat more because they have to expend more energy for the same exact task. So the more physically fit you are and more acclimated to heat one is, the less electrolytes are lost. In fact, the highest record sweat rate for an athlete during exercise was by Alberto Salazar, the great marathon runner, while he was preparing for the 1984 Summer Olympics. As you can see here, sodium and potassium losses are going to be roughly about 2,000 milligrams and 100 milligrams per hour. Someone who is in not very good shape tends to lose more sodium in their sweat than a person who is fit. But everyone's sweat is slightly a little different. Untrained individuals and unacclimated to heat can lose almost double the amount of sodium and potassium when compared to those who are physically fit. Now understand, if we didn't sweat, our bodies would literally cook from the inside. Research has shown that fit individuals, especially those who train for endurance sports like running, sweat sooner and more profusely than people who rarely get physical fitness. Sweating needs to occur in order to get an adequate amount of evaporation for body cooling. The average person will lose about 1.5 to 2 liters of fluid through sweat. Add high humidity and heat to the mix, and your rate of fluid loss can actually be doubled, because hot air can't cool the sweat on your skin as quickly and chilly as cool air can, right? The higher the humidity, the greater the water vapor density already in the air. Higher temperatures only contribute to dehydration problems. The worst conditions an athlete can face are hot, humid, sunny, and windless, in which exercise is occurring at a high rate of intensity, such as a race. How much you sweat? Well, on average, you lose about 1 liter or roughly 2 pounds of fluid per exercise. How much sweat does that actually look like? Well, let's take a look at an example. 1 liter is about 2 pounds. A 16-ounce bottle is a half a liter. So, a 32-ounce bottle is almost 1 liter. So 2 small 16-ounce water bottles would be equivalent to the amount of sweat you lose in 1 hour. Now understand, this does not take into account high heat or humidity. When the temperature rises, the total amount of sweat loss can increase to up to 3 liters per hour. That's 6 pounds of water loss in 1 hour. When we are 4% dehydrated, athletic performance decreases by almost 30%. Now, losing 3 to 5% of our body weight causes the sweating process to slow down. And remember, we need to continuously sweat efficiently so we can perform optimally. Now let's try to put this into context. And we're going to use last year as an example. On April 10th, the weather in Bakersfield at start time of 8 a.m. was roughly 50 degrees. The first stage is 5.4 miles, so we can assume the runner is fairly competitive and runs roughly an 8-minute pace per mile. That means they're going to run roughly 45 to 50 minutes at a pretty fast pace. So this runner does not have a high temperature outside, but it's still putting a lot of effort in. So they must do their best to maintain proper hydration to maintain that intensity. In the end, they'll lose up to 2 pounds of body weight. And again, if you lose 2% of your body weight, your performance will diminish as well as your mental focus. So it's recommended that they hydrate every 15 to 20 minutes throughout the race. But now let's look at a second example further down the race. Stage 9 starts about 15 miles south of Pahrump, and the time of day will be much hotter, possibly late afternoon, and it'll be around 75 degrees. This stage is one of the longer runs, about 7.5 miles. If the person was able to maintain 8-minute pace per mile, then we'll running in hard and high heat for about an hour. Again, losing up to 2 pounds of water and decreasing performance. So it's very important to maintain hydration before, during, and after the race. Now that we know that hydration is important for optimal athletic performance, we need to understand what to drink. Sports drinks often contain electrolytes, but in most cases, their ingredients offer no additional benefit over water, except for taste. It's a two-pronged approach. Drinking the fluid itself is no different than water. However, the electrolytes will take about 40 to 45 minutes to digest inside your intestinal tract. This is where the electrolyte balance occurs. Sports drinks are called isotonic. They're a carbohydrate solution that is 6 to 8% concentration. The higher the carbohydrate content of your beverage, the slower the absorption rate will be. Fruit juices and sodas have too much sugar. Therefore, over 8% of concentration. Concentrated sugar solutions slows down fluid from entering your bloodstream. So your caffeinated beverages, your monster drinks, your rock stars are extremely high in sugars and carbohydrates, and they're going to take forever to rehydrate you. Sports drinks are made up of water plus half the amount of sugar found in soda and juices. And remember, trying to maintain proper hydration and balanced electrolytes during a run with sugary sports drinks is very difficult. On the other hand, plain water passes through the body too quickly and without providing the necessary sugar to spark the insulin response and ignite the recovery process. The lower the sugar concentration you have, the easier it is for your body to absorb it. So balance is the key. Your primary aim in rehydration is keeping the body cool while maintaining fluid balance. Also, replenishing energy, sugar, and electrolyte storages. If you consume too much water and not enough electrolytes, your body pulls electrolytes from its cells in order to create the right balance of absorption. If you consume too many electrolytes and not enough fluid, your body pulls fluid from within to create the right balance of absorption. Consuming large amounts of water without electrolytes can lead to a condition called hyponatremia. Hyponatremia is also known as low sodium concentration or water intoxication, which occurs due to prolonged sweating coupled with the dilution of sodium caused by consuming large amounts of fluid with low or no sodium. So here's what we recommend before the race. At least 4 hours before exercise, athletes should consume about 5 to 7 milliliters of fluid per kilogram per body weight. They should consume more fluid slowly, approximately 3 to 5 milligrams of body weight, 2 hours before exercise if the individual is not urinating or if the urine is dark. Consuming sodium-rich foods at that time can help stimulate thirst and retain fluids. If sodium is consumed in a beverage, the recommended amount is 20 to 460 or 150 milligrams per liter. A common practice before an event is for an athlete to attempt hyperhydrate with water. We do not advise or recommend doing this because it increases the risk of urination during the event and could dilute the sodium levels in the body, thus increasing the risk of hyponatremia. The fluid should typically be lightly sweetened, should contain a little sodium, and should be in a cool temperature. During the race, our recommendation is to aim for 3 to 8 ounces of a 6 to 8% carbohydrate electrolyte beverage every 10 to 20 minutes during exercise lasting longer than 60 to 90 minutes. Consuming beverages with sodium or snacks containing sodium will help stimulate thirst and retain water. That's why we often say just put a pinch of salt in your water bottle. Both carbohydrate protein and carbohydrate only are better than just water for rehydration during your race. However, protein-based drinks often create a film on your tongue, which may not be very palatable. Fluid retention after consumption of a carbohydrate protein beverage was 15% greater than after consumption of a carbohydrate only beverage, and a 40% greater just when it was water. So having a little salt and a little sugar in there is not bad. We just don't want too much because it will slow down the hydration process. This is why we often tell people mix it half and half. Half water, half sports drink. Now, what's just as important during the race and before the race is the post-race. Our recommendation is athletes must consume 150% of their lost weight to achieve normal hydration within 6 hours. The recommendation is to ingest 20 to 24 ounces of fluids for every pound of body weight lost during training. Though plain water is effective for rehydration, athletes should consider a sports drink, again half and half, or consume their water with foods that contain electrolytes, such as sodium and chloride, to replace those electrolytes lost during the run. Remember, rapid hydration is the goal of post-exercise. It's advisable to avoid alcohol or caffeinated beverages in the first few hours after your activity or run. That's our hydration tips for today. And remember, I'm Coach John Hoffman with Southern California University's Tactical Sports Medicine program located in Whittier, California. And our motto is fit for duty, fit for life. Good luck.